Why, Gibson? Why? 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 Hello again, folks, and I thought I would throw my own little 2 cents in on the whole Gibson debacle that is now going on recently, and throw up my video to just kind of give people that actually might be subscribed to my channel or run into the video my comments on the interesting new Gibson fiasco going on. Gibson released a video, I believe it's now last week, with their brand ambassador or marketing ambassador guy that used to be from Norman's Rare Guitars, Mark Ignacy, to which he proclaims, "We're coming for you. We're coming for you, and 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 you. All you people that make instruments that have anything similar to a Gibson look to it, we're coming for you." And so, as a lot of people took it, and myself included, I thought it was a very unintelligent thing for Gibson to do. While, yes, their trademarking and their copyrights on some of their patents is important, and yes, they should be trying to, prevent people from abusing their patents, they kind of left out that little fact that they just came out of bankruptcy and the company was already on a bad run. So, like many people have expressed in many other videos, doing some stunt like they did with that video, basically of a attacking nature to other guitar manufacturers, is probably not a good idea. And I have seen it actually has already had a negative ripple and impact on it. So, we come to today, and in light of the video that they took down because of all the negative comments and feedback on it, which is rightly so, out comes the following announcement. And as we see here on guitar.com news, Gibson has launched apparently a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against Dean and Luna Guitars in a Texas court. The bad thing is CJ Curley has came on, and you do 6+ months of damage control to fix the company's name, make things positive. They put out some product that actually had been positive, and then they go and they release the video that basically puts the gentleman in a light that he should be actually named Mark Agassi, and saying that we're going to go after all these people because we're the big guys, we have the big guns, we have the big money, we have all the copyrights and patterns on our stuff, and yous all are infringing on it, intentionally or unintentionally, so we want to take your money and kill your business. Makes sense, doesn't it? So Mr. Curley goes around, does all this. Then they release that video. Then they take it down because it gets all the negative press. Then, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, this pops up today, this lawsuit. So, as it reads here, the original story, Gibson Brand Incorporated has filed a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against the parent company of Dean Guitars and Luna Guitars in a Texas court. Guitar Giant is alleging trademark infringement, trademark counterfeit, unfair competition, and trademark delusion on the part of a Florida-based Armadillo Distribution Enterprise, Inc. Among the allegations, Gibson is accusing Armadillo, which also owns drum maker D-Drum, of running afoul on 7 of its trademarks. These include the body shape, design of the Flying V, Explorer, ES, and SG, as well as the dove wing headstock design, the hummingbird name, and modern trademark. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but when did Gibson trademark the name hummingbird? And so does that mean that they can, in this mindset that they are now, are they going to sue Webster's Dictionary for having the name hummingbird used in their dictionary? Or that it doesn't actually represent a Gibson product instead of a animal in life? Seems pretty crazy. And modern, well, Gibson's modern guitar really hasn't been that successful, so they're definitely grabbing at straws there with that one. The news of the suit comes hot on the heels of the director of brand experience, Mark Agnesi, discussing trademark infringement on a YouTube video uploaded by Gibson last week. In the video, Agnesi cautioned other guitar builders, "You have been warned. We're looking out, and we're here to protect our iconic legacy." The video caused a wave of negative reactions from the online guitar community, leading to the clip being pulled from YouTube. It seems as though Gibson is ready to back their strong words and actions. The suit was filed in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of Texas in May, but amended on 6 June 2019, a week before the Agnesi video was published. So that's kind of interesting. What's striking is the timing of the suit, as these Dean guitars have been in the market for decades. Dean Guitars was founded by Luther Dean Zielinski in 1977, and his take on the Flying V and Explorer. The V and Z has been in the Dean catalog ever since. The V even celebrated its 30th birthday with a special anniversary model in 2007. See, now, to me, there is the biggest thing right there. They should be going after Dean Zielinski. They should not be going after Dean. The Dean Company had bought all the rights and whatnot from Dean Zielinski. But if you want to go after your person who has actually broken your copyrights, it's Dean Zielinski himself back in 1977. And quite honestly, that is, 50 years? 30 years? Like, it's just crazy that, 40 years. I just figured it out. So 40 plus years, Gibson has taken their sweet ass time to decide, oh, this guy's using our patents and our copyrighted stuff. We should sue him now. It's like, and as a lot of people have pointed out, they feel that it really should have been something Gibson should have been doing years upon years ago. And I agree with the sentiment that a lot of folks have, because really what it kind of reminds me, if we go over the internet debate about internet domain names. So like the internet domain name here, https / guitar.com. Now, guitar.com, they put in for a copyright or a license and registered their name guitar.com. Now, the thing is usually these licenses can go usually for 5 years on a domain name, if I remember things correctly or vaguely. Someone can answer in the comments and, correct me if I'm wrong in that regards. But here's the whole thing. So guitar.com, they have this domain name, and so nobody else can use guitar.com because they can be sued or contacted to stop using the domain name, or both. So because of that, guitar.com, their ownership, they paid the X amount of dollars to have that domain name and registry registered to them. But if someone was really, I guess, sneaky, they could be sitting there, and if the company behind guitar.com or owners behind guitar.com didn't actually renew their name and they just let it slip even for 1 second, there is some individuals out there on the internet that would quickly, as soon as it came up, say, here's my credit card, here's my name, I want the domain. And they will have lost their domain to the user who put in their claim to use that domain. And they would have to then sue or offer the person cash to get their domain name back. And this is where I feel a lot of these copyrights and so forth, in companies and owners that aren't keeping their copyrights up, should be held accountable and lose their rights to their claims for not keeping it up. And this has happened to Fender and some other companies out there. And the ones that do their due diligence and always renewing and updating and keeping their copyrights and trademarks and so forth in check, they don't have any problems when it comes to stuff like this. But again, as I said down here, Gibson should have been going after Dean Zelinsky all the way back in 1977. Instead of what they've done over probably the last 3 decades, which is they see an independent builder that builds a product that is identical to theirs or as close as possible to theirs, of better quality at a lower price amount than what they're selling their stuff. And they go after them and shut them down. And maybe this guitar builder only builds 100 guitars a year, if that. They could only build 5 guitars a year, if that. So, I mean, in the case of something like that, how is that taking away from Gibson's business or money income? It's not. And in a sense, I would say going after a large company like a Dean, that would make sense going after a company of that scale length for abusing their patterns and copyrights and so forth, or sorry, their designs. Not builders that are building like under 500 guitars in a year or whatever. Like, it should be something substantial to affect Gibson's business. And a company like Dean, yes. A company like Joe LP Guitars, who only makes 5 Gibson style guitars that are almost identical in design. Stopping them from making 5 guitars a year that maybe they make $500 on, to me, that's pretty petty. So getting back to the lawsuit thing, so they show the headstocks, and so of course the Dean headstock is here on the left, Gibson is on the right. Where the hell is this Gibson headstock in this one for this Dean headstock? It's not. The humps are totally different. The arch is larger in this design. The arch inward around the tuning pegs. The size of the headstock itself is bigger if these are even, which I believe they are. So, I mean, there's substantial differences where, you know, Gibson doesn't have a foot to stand on in this regard. Now, in regards to, as they show with the Dean V, headstock's totally different. So they can't do anything there. Neck's pretty much the same. Body is pretty much the same. Your strap holder is in a different position on the Dean than the Gibson. Well, that's moot point. So Gibson maybe has a leg to stand on there in saying about this patent, about the V patent. So let's see here. I haven't actually read this. I haven't read this much, so details of the filing are equally interesting. Rather than only accusing Armadillo of infringing trademark, the filing accuses it of trademark counterfeiting, in effect accusing Armadillo of trying to deceive or mislead the public into thinking that guitars made by Dean or Luna are in fact Gibsons or have some connection to Gibson. Not really. I mean, you can see that's a Gibson Flying V. How do you think that this is a Gibson Flying V? Anyone with a small little bit of instrument knowledge or guitar brand knowledge knows that this isn't a Gibson Flying V. Gibson, I don't think, has ever done a headstock like this, per se, that I remember. So, if so, they better have trademarked a design of a headstock that looks like this inverted kind of V headstock. Or maybe that's their argument, is that it's the Gibson headstock turned upside down. Ooh. Still doesn't make any sense. So, let's see here. This is notable because not only is it a more serious accusation In trademark infringement, the penalties, if the court is to find against Armadillo, are also much greater. Gibson is seeking damages compromising Armadillo's profits, damages sustained by Gibson, and the cost of the action, as well as the former two amounts, to be trebled or otherwise multiplied to the extent of permitted by statute according to official court documents. Alternatively, Gibson can pursue statutory damages of up to and including $14 million US, $2 million for each of the 7 mentioned in the filing. Gibson has requested a jury trial to resolve the case. Guitar.com has approached both Armadillo and Gibson brands for comments. So, this filing of up to $14 million for the 7 mentioned patents or whatever, if they're multiplying that by per year, and we go back to like 1977, 14 million times 40 is like $500 million. And I don't know if that's actually how it works out or if it's just 14 million outright. I'm assuming it's what I said, that it's divvied up per year and then multiplied by up to 14 million per year, which, like I said, in that case, $500 million. $500 million, I think, would be a substantial amount of cash that probably would make Dean go out of business or have to sell themselves off. But again, at the end of the day, they shouldn't be going after Dean, the Dean company that's owned by the Armadillo's group. If I understand that correctly, they should be going after the luthier Dean Zielinski that back in 1977 started making the Dean brand and the Dean guitar products. And they should be going after him for the designs that they've copyrighted. So, as I noticed here on the document, they have updated their story here, and it says Armadillo Enterprises has responded to the news of the suit in a letter to the company's dealers, strongly refuting the claims made in Gibson's complaint. Armadillo CEO Evan Rubinson describes the suit as entirely baseless and says, "We will vigorously defend ourselves and seek to cancel Gibson's alleged trademark registrations, while also claiming that we respect and value the intellectual property rights of others, but some things are just too common and basic for one company to claim as their own property." And I agree that that really is the truth. And he sums up right. So let's go to the further explanation things. In the letter, Rubinson noted that you may have received a letter from Gibson saying that it decided to, quote unquote, pursue actions against us in connection with the alleged copying of the Flying V Explorer, the ES335 guitar shapes, and refers to demands made by Gibson in relation to the company's V and Z shaped guitars that dealers may receive. Rubinson describes Dean as a 43-year-old iconic American-based guitar company, explains that Dean Guitars has been continuously offering the V and Z shaped guitars since at least 76 for over the past 40 years. These guitars have been widely seen and promoted for decades, including in popular music videos, on stages with famous artists across the globe, at trade shows, and other prominent industry events. He further claims many other companies have been using this generic shape for decades. We believe the alleged Flying V and Explorer shapes are unprotectable, and Gibson's trademark registrations should be invalidated. Continuing his strong counter arguments to Gibson's claims, Robinson asserts that Armadillo will counter Gibson's suit with actions of its own. If Gibson pursues its claims, we will vigorously defend ourselves and seek to cancel Gibson's alleged trademark registration. Away from the controversy over the Explorer and Flying V trademarks, Rubinson also countered Gibson's complaint towards Luna's take on the ES style, confirming that the company is part of a consortium already taking legal steps to try to counter Gibson's claims. Dean Guitars, together with a number of other guitar makers, have already initiated an opposition proceeding before the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office in a collective industry effort to curb Gibson's attempt to claim exclusive rights to this generic shape, he says, referring to the ES335 design. Ending the letter to Armadillo's dealers, Robinson sounds a note of support for intellectual property rights, but reiterates his claims that Gibson's claims are without merit. We respect the value of the intellectual property rights of others, he asserts, but we can also recognize that some things are just too common and basic for one company to claim as their own property. And that's really what it comes down to. And Rubinson states it very clearly. Gibson has sat on these designs that they haven't trademarked or they've just recently trademarked, and they shouldn't be able to go back and get those designs because they've been already in existence for decades. And I think Rubinson has a great thing going on as well too, because if they're looking to take, like I said, like $500 million from Dean Guitars for royalties and trademark infringement, Dean should be going right back at them and saying, like, you want to do that to us? Well, here you go. We're going to do this back to you. And, putting this claims against us that, just are pretty much like a cash grab for the most part. So to me, I think Rubinson should be definitely going balls to the wall against Gibson. And, Gibson wants to hold people accountable. Well, guess what, Gibson? You're getting held accountable. And unfortunately, you're putting yourself back into where you were when Henry was in power. And for someone like J.C. Curley, who's had his experience with Levi's and that, I don't understand how someone like him would tell Ignacy and Gibson's legal staff to start going after people, like, especially when you just came out of bankruptcy. Sure, maybe if you owed freaking billions and billions and billions of dollars and you need to grab money as quickly as possible, you could do that, but this just is bad. Bad, 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 bad. And the worst of all is it hurts us, the consumers, as well as the video posted, and now this lawsuit definitely is insulting to the consumers. What Gibson should be doing is going back to putting out a quality item at an affordable price. And they still don't get that you know, a $1,200 tribute Gibson Les Paul is still substantially out of the money range for most of the public at large. And you can go to any other brand out there, Dean that's being sued, Diamond, and so forth and so forth. Agile, like I had, Agile AL3010, and you can get a quality instrument of little to no flaws at half the price of what Gibson wants for a comparable product, or the comparable product to the Gibson product. So Gibson, if they really, really, really want to right their ship, they would really bring back their prices. Now, they talked about cutting their prices back, and a Les Paul standard, again, they cut the prices in the US. Up here in Canada, a Les Paul standard is 3,400 Canadian. How much less is it than the previous years? $200 Canadian less. Is that a price cut? And is that $200 less going to help put that guitar into the consumer's hands? Nuh-uh. Nope. To me, what they need to do is bring it back to the pricing of, like I said, in 1985, I could have got a Cherry Burst Les Paul standard for 1,200 Canadian. That's right, 1,200 Canadian. And I paid for a made in Japan 60 reissue Fender Stratocaster maple neck in Olympic white, 700 Canadian, which was my first guitar that I bought. So, I understand that the cost of things have gone up in that, but at the end of the day, when you have companies that have actually revealed the pricing of what wood and materials and so forth cost to make their product, and you put that into the Gibson thing, like I said, most people that can build an LP style guitar can do it for about 250 in hardware, in wood, and so forth, in all the products it makes, and it needs to produce the product as a whole. So here's Gibson saying, our guitar is 5 times that, or even 10 times that, or even 15 times that. So, like a custom shop Gibson Les Paul guitar, to me, if they're charging between $3,000 to $6,000 for that, I think that's reasonable because it is custom shop. A regular Les Paul standard that you normally buy shouldn't be any more than $2,000 at a max, and that's if it's a special run. They should really be in that mid $1,000 range, between $1,000 and $2,000. Simple as that. Because the consumers out there, And especially down in the States as well, too, which is the other crazy thing about it. Your wages and hourly earning wages in the States is not anywhere close to even up here in Canada. Our hourly rate is, I think, between $12 and $15 an hour. Where if I understand down in the US it's what, about $8? So I mean, you talk about someone who's working a job at $8 or $9 an hour. How many hours do they have to work? Like, I mean, they got to work 900 hours, and that's before, sorry, 100 hours to get $900. And that's before deductions and taxes and so forth. So, I mean, you're talking to get a US priced Gibson Les Paul standard, you're talking about having to work 300 hours roughly to afford a Gibson Les Paul standard if you're buying it outright. So imagine that, 300 hours. That's what, 2-3 weeks of work, or in some cases that's maybe even a month of a person's work. Like, we don't know if people are working 4-hour weeks or not, but to have to work over a month to get an instrument that ends up still having flaws, you know, sure, you want to buy product for your country because you're patriotic and such, but at the end of the day, it still, as a lot of people say, it's wood and metal materials put together to make something. And it doesn't matter the amount of money that the instrument costs. If the person is able to make music on it, they can make music on it. It doesn't have to be a $8,000 guitar or $2,000 guitar. Even recently on the Tone King video, and I think Philip McKnight even did it as well too. There's even a Fender custom shop guy that was at the TGU event recently in Germany at Thomann, who actually was asked if you were to pick a cheaper instrument that was playable that you would play and like, which one? He picked off of the wall a Squire Affinity Stratocaster that was in like a fluorescent orange color. And in the recent Tone King video that he posted up with the same guy, the custom shop guy himself even said, I was blown away that I picked a $200 guitar that's not even made in the US or even Mexico. It's made in Indonesia. And he said, it plays beautiful and amazing. And he said there's no issues with it. He said, that totally blows my mind. And he goes, that's how much substantial difference there is between cheaper instruments in this day and age versus back in our youth, which he's of course referring to, like many of us, back in the early 80s. The low end cheap instruments back then were very much garbage compared to what we get nowadays for at such a cheap price. It is far easier for somebody to start off as a beginner now in this day and age with a $200 instrument and actually be able to keep playing and stay with playing versus someone with an instrument from back in the early 80s of $200 origins wouldn't want to keep playing because the thing would be out of tune, the thing would have weird frets, twists, whatever, things to make it not unplayable. So, anyways, that's the end of my little Gibson video here. If you actually stayed with me throughout the whole 40, thank you very much for watching. And again, I hope everyone is well and have a great rest of your weekend. And I will see you later. Bye for now.